Welcome to Get to Know Glasgow, the podcast that tells you what you need to know about student life at the University of Glasgow from those who know it best. In this series, 4 undergraduate and postgraduate students will share their Glasgow journeys.
I'm Ash.
Hey, I'm Danielle.
I'm Jaquine.
And I'm Victor.
In each episode, we'll be sharing our experience
and giving you our top tips
on everything from student accommodation to funding options,
so you'll know what it's really like to be part of Team U of G.
Let's get started.
So, I want to know if any of you have ever reached out to the university for any student support or if you've used any other services.
I think our university has so many resources on their website or even like in person. Like there's literally help for every problem that you can think of. Even like if you're struggling with your studies, the professors and your study advisors are so helpful. In fact, a lot of people don't know about the system that's followed at our uni. Maybe it's a life sciences thing, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But we have every student has a personalized study advisor, and literally whatever problem you're facing from your studies to even your personal life, they're happy to even just listen or talk about it. How cool is that? Also, there's this laptop loan scheme run by uni that I found quite useful when I moved to Glasgow, where they loan you a laptop for literally for free, and you can keep it for as long as you want, unless you're like obviously being productive with it. But I think things like these, even like this, I heard about this taxi service, how you can get if you're out at a night out and you want to get home, but you can't really figure out a way to get home. If you like literally give your student ID to the taxi driver, they all are synchronized in such a way that they store your student ID instead of charging you for the drive. And then the next day you can get that sorted. But like for the night, you're totally fine. Like you cannot get lost. But like it's things like these, it's so helpful, encouraging, and supporting.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how like you were saying with like the student helpers that you have. My course doesn't have that, but I'd also recommend people reaching out to the teachers as well with their assignments, and then there's also like an advisor for, I think every single degree has their own advisor that they can reach out to. All the information can be found on the student portal that you have, where you can like check your grades and your tuition fee updates and all of that. And also all of the emails for your coordinators are on Moodle, which is a website that you'll have where it shows all of your classes, and then all of your assignments will be on Moodle. And so if you click on it, then you can find all of the resources for all the professors, so that if you have any questions that you had after the lecture, but then you're like, oh man, I won't be able to see that professor again, then if you want something elaborated, just reach out to them by finding their emails on that.
I was just going to say that I'm doing a placement as a part of my degree now, because I'm doing an integrated master's degree instead of a regular bachelor's honors degree. So I think for that, the help that university has provided has been transformative throughout my journey, like ranging from giving us advice on how to apply to these placements and like the resources. In fact, most people don't know this, but our uni has so many resources for interviews, for like online interviews and things like these, where you can practice doing an interview for like, you literally need to type in the kind of company you're working in, and it'll give you personalized questions based on it, which is
really
exact. I know I was mind blown when I found out.
Would you like to name the resource, please?
I think it's literally just like, I don't remember the name, but if you go to like internship help U of G or some keywords on those lines on Google, you'll get there. But there is resources that like literally help you practice for your interviews, and I've been using quite a lot of those because I've given like 1 million interviews last semester to get a placement. But like the uni has been really supportive with that, and finally, fingers crossed, I signed my contract last week, so I think it all worked out for the best for me.
Yeah, that's good. I've used some of the resources for getting internships and stuff like that, which has been really good. So it's Internship Hub,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, really good. So I got an internship in the university archives and special collections over the summer. And yeah, I'm currently doing an internship for the medical school, so MVLS,
Mm.
and that's for the digital education unit. So that was honestly one of the most simple processes I've ever experienced getting like an internship or a job in my life, you know. So having the university kind of partnership with certain places as well just
Mm-hmm.
makes the process like, super, super simple. And they have like dedicated people to help you with your application as well when you're on the internship hub. My biggest experience was when I got diagnosed with ADHD at 27. So it was actually a year into me starting university. And the minute I got my diagnosis, I reached out to like disability services, and they were incredible. Like, got an email straight back from my disability advisor. They constantly check in, make sure everything what needs I need, so you get an interview and stuff like that, and they go through
Mm-hmm.
what your needs are and stuff. And they are more than happy to like give you software. So if there's any kind of software you need, so even though I have obviously ADHD, this
Mm-hmm.
applies for anyone and everyone that needs to use the disability services. They'll assess your needs and they will provide you with any equipment or software or anything that you need throughout your studies. And they're always
Mm.
checking in on you as well. And I think a lot of people worry about assignments and stuff like that. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I'll get like a bit of flexibility around assignments. So usually it's like deadlines, I can get an extra couple of days, or if it's exams, I get a wee bit extra time in exams. And it's just things like that that have literally made my life so much easier. You know, as I say, I left school when I was younger, and I was out of education for about 10 years before I went back to university. So when I was at school, I didn't know that I had ADHD, but obviously I still had it. And my experience from being in school and not having that support to being in university and having the support has been completely life changing. So one of these things, as I always say, is if you need the support there, it is there. Ask for it, use it, because you are the like in your studies, you are number one. Like, look after
Yeah.
yourself, because it's your experience at the end of the day, you know, and you want that experience to be the best it can be. And
Mm-hmm.
using all of these support sort of avenues is just one of the best things. There's also an app, the Health Assured app, that is the university's kind of partnered with to help with like mental health and just advice and all of these other things. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
a great wee app to have. So you do like daily check-ins or weekly check-ins about your mood, how you're feeling, and then what it does is it will kind of talk you through ways and how to improve your mood, what you're struggling with, and all these kind of things. So it's a separate wee app from the university that the university have kind of partnered up with, and it's just a way for you to kind of check in on yourself and
Mm-hmm.
to read articles, and you know you can search specific things. So for me, looking up ADHD, there's articles on that, like how to manage ADHD within the workplace. So if you're getting like an internship and you're a bit worried about
Mm-hmm.
something, search it on that app, and there's lots of advice. So yeah, it's just knowing all these wee things. I think is important, but sometimes you don't know where to look.
Speaking of apps, by the way, I was gonna say there are other really important apps like the SRC app or the Safe Zone app. For example, the Student Representative Council or the SRC app is really helpful for like their services, and the fact that they're all organized in an app in a really like cool manner, it's really interesting for me. And apart from that, even like Safe Zone app, it gives you alerts, and like you can always I think there's an emergency button on the app as well, which like immediately senses your location and provides help. But like it's
Mm-hmm.
things like these that make you feel so much more safer and secure living 7 oceans away from home, where like
Yeah,
you obviously, I personally don't have any family or relatives here, so the only sense of support I have is my university, because that's why I moved out. But like it's things like these that make me feel just so much better. In fact, there's the support for international students as well that I found really cool. How like I think I remember one incident that happened last year. I think it was during December during Christmas. And most of my friends had moved back home or like gone back home, and I was still in Glasgow. And they had like Christmas carols and little Christmas dinners and things like these in Glasgow for like international students who obviously celebrate Christmas but can't go back home for some reason. And I was like, oh my god, that's so like cute. And like the way they're like trying to include more people, like international students like myself, I found it really cool and helpful.
Yeah.
I would also say for international students, when you arrive at university, going to what's the building? Is it the Fraser Building? Where you?
For what? For BRPs and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Fraser Building.
Yeah. So, knowing that you'll be able to have your BRP and then going for your student ID stuff is very quick and it's very easy to do. So just going to the building and then being like, oh yeah, I read it. Like when you make your application, then and you get accepted, then you can say for your BRP address to be at the university so that you don't have to worry about getting it mailed all the way back home to your country and then leaving. You can just come over and then tell the people at the terminal, like, oh yeah, I'm collecting my BRP at the university, and then they'll be like, okay, that's fine, because it's completely normal to do that. And then over here you go to the Fraser Building, which is next to the university library, and you come in and they'll ask you, oh, do you have the documents to give you proof? Make sure you have all your documents in hand and your passport, and then it's just, oh, here you go.
I know, it's so easy. It's basically a one-stop solution for almost everything, like your student ID, your BRP. In fact, there's Barclays Medical Help Center in the Fraser Building as well. Like whatever problem you have, literally go up to the Fraser Building and you'll be fine.
I just wanted to bring up another thing that at the university we have the Gilchrist Postgraduate Club, which is obviously a place that's dedicated to postgraduate students, and maybe the biggest point of entrance for the Gilchrist Club is that it has a really nice cafe, which is right past the main gate. But I've heard that they organize lots of events and of course they have a really nice study space for postgraduate students, which is kind of adjacent to the cafe, which is really, really nice. So it's another thing to add to your list of ways to socialize with other people and to get to know other people. So
one more thing, so there's a buddy scheme as well that I've seen for first years.
That's such a good shout.
The buddy scheme. So I was a buddy for a first year when I was in third year, and it's basically just usually they'll buddy up with someone that's on the same course as you and stuff like that, but it's just basically for folks that have went through maybe similar stuff as you, or because I went through the Access course, I was buddied up with someone who had went through the Access course and they were now in their first year, and it's just to have somebody that has went through the same thing as you to have a point of contact. So I would swap numbers with them, they would email me and they would have me on WhatsApp, and I was just a point of contact for them to say, listen, I'm really worried about this assessment because of XYZ going on in my life, and I'd go, do you know what, I've been through that, this is how I managed it, what do you need me to do? I can be there and help. So things like that, the buddy schemes that some of the schools do are absolutely fantastic. And if you do get an email about it and you're interested, feel free to just email back, inquire about it, check it out, because it's really nice to have just another student that's been through the same experience as you to be able to reach out to them and have a point of contact. And it has worked wonders for some of the buddies that I know that were in that schemes.
Guys, what are your top tips for anyone new coming to Glasgow about student support at University of Glasgow?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I had to overcome was kind of the fear of asking for help. I just think it's so important to understand that this is your experience and you want to get the absolute most out of it. The help is there for a reason, and it can be for anything. So no question is a stupid question. Like, that is the number one rule. If you feel yeah, if you're honestly struggling with anything, it can be, honestly, to you it might feel like the most simple thing, but if it is causing you in any way, sort of, you to panic or to feel like, you're struggling, that is absolutely valid reason for you to go and reach out to student services, to go reach out to your advisor, to reach out to a buddy if you've got one, or sign up for a buddy system. Like, get on the buddy schemes are great. But like I say, nothing that you're going through should ever be like, don't undersell it, and don't be like, oh, it's nothing. If you feel that you need help, ask. Don't ever sit there in silence and think that what you're going through isn't big enough for help. Always ask, and make sure you make the absolute most of all of the services, because that's what they're there for. They're there for you to use and have the best university experience possible. So yeah.
Exactly. Like, don't invalidate your feelings.
Yeah. Just reach out to people whenever you're feeling like you're struggling. I remember that, like, about 2 years ago when I was applying for this research master scholarship, I was trying to face something that was really new to me, trying to write this research proposal and everything. And I really wanted to get the scholarship, but I had no idea how to approach that. So I remember someone who had lectured me on research methods on my previous master's degree. And I just emailed her, and I was like, so I have to deal with this. I have no idea, where to start writing this. And she was like, she's a super busy person, but she was super helpful, and like, she actually, helped me get the scholarship. She gave me very, very thorough and very like specific feedback on my application, that helped me, get the scholarship. And I've been doing that ever since, so every new application that I have to deal with, and I deal with lots of applications because apparently that's just my life now. Like, I always make sure to always, reach out to people to help, like, how can I make this better? What would you recommend? Sometimes if I feel like I'm, getting a bit closer to a lecturer, I'll sometimes, just send them an email and, maybe ask for career advice and stuff like that. And I feel like within the university, there's a culture that allows for those things to happen. So that's a great thing.
I would also add, for academic resources, come to the first week of your lectures. That's something that I have definitely learned, because they tell you so much information about academic resources, where to find things. Also, researching just on Google a certain topic and then U of G. For example, like, I used to be so confused about our grading system, and then I researched exam grading system U of G, and it had the whole spreadsheet PDF of how everything is graded, the examples of how they take your grade point average, and what that would look like. And also, like, for essay writing, there's a whole section where it teaches you the different types of ways to put your bibliography for, like, Harvard
That's
style.
a good point.
Yeah, so making sure that you're in the loop, especially on, like, the first week of university, and also just not being afraid to ask if you miss out. Like myself, I was a bit afraid to ask when I had that opportunity, but making sure you're not too afraid to ask your teachers if you've missed out on resources, because you may think that you know a lot of information as you're going on, but you learn as you go on throughout the years that there's always something new that you're learning as you're going out through university. So just continue to stay in the loop and continue being open to learning new things.
We hope this episode has been useful. If you're interested in finding out more, you'll find the links you need in the show notes, and you can visit glasgow.ac.uk/get to know Glasgow. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.